So I'm learning Arabic. I speak Hebrew, I speak English. Hebrew, I speak fluently because my parents, they moved to Israel. My mom was Russian, moved to Israel. My dad was Moroccan, moved to Israel. Hebrew was like just something I grew up with. And growing up in New York and Manhattan, like Spanish is basically like my third language. Do I speak it fluently? No. Can I hold a pretty solid conversation? Like, absolutely. I took Spanish very seriously. And now I am living in Israel. It's been a while that I've been here. And I decided to learn to speak Arabic also because I live in a place where there are many Arabic people. For me, it's also been kind of a melting pot here. And I woke up being like, why don't I speak Arabic? I truly believe that when there's conflict or when people don't see eye to eye, it's probably because they're speaking different languages. And I mean that metaphorically too. I mean, so many times I will have disagreements, or in the past, at least, I don't know, I can't think of any right now, but where, this person has said this and it ticked me off. And I said this to this person and it ticked them off. And it boils down to just misunderstanding. I truly believe that most people are coming from a good place. I didn't always think this. I think even now, when people aren't coming from a good place, maybe they're just unaware. I see them as unaware. People who want to do evil to you, like they're just unaware of what's going on. They're not speaking to themselves. They're not connected to themselves. But I do try to believe that people are genuinely coming from a good place. They're generally trying to come from a good place. So for me, learning Arabic is just like another way into understanding people. I love people. I love to get to know people. I love to know why people are the way they are, what makes them tick, how things are the way they are, and why things are the way they are, and how they escalated, and what makes someone tick. I really believe that you can understand why people are the way they are or where they're coming from learning a little bit more about them, whether it's another language or really immersing yourself in another culture. So I live in Israel. I've been in Tel Aviv 10 years. Tel Aviv is such a cultural hub. In many ways, I find it to be kind of more diverse than even New York City. And that's such a stretch and maybe statistically incorrect. But I got to really like immerse myself in a new melting pot that looks a little different from the one I grew up in New York. Whenever the opportunity presents itself to figure out why some people or some things are the way they are, to come from an objective perspective and be like, and I'm going to come in no expectations and see what I come out with, your life will be richer, more full. I feel very blessed to be able to communicate with people. And this next guest is a healer of mine. I wanted more insight into how she became the way she is. And I wanted really to speak her language and understand her more. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Hila Dekel. This is a really good episode, and I hope you enjoy. So, hello and welcome. I have a gorgeous, amazing guest that I'm so excited to interview today. This is my second interview, my second podcast, and my first Zoom. So without further ado, Hila Dekel, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually a bit sick today, but other than that, I'm good.
I really appreciate you coming, even though you're not feeling well, and we couldn't do it in person, but maybe this will end up being even better because you could be home.
I'm sure, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I started this podcast and why I wanted you to come on, and then we'll get right into it. So for me, I deleted social media, deleted Instagram, deleted Facebook. I decided that if I'm going to make content, it's going to be real content, authentic content, content that inspires me. And I see myself as someone who is here to learn. I'm here to speak to people, get to know who they are, because we're all mirrors. And if I can learn about you, maybe I can learn about myself. And the reason I find you so fascinating is because I'm kind of like a healer whore. Like I'll go to every healer. I want to know what everybody does. I'm so curious what the different modalities are. And there's just something about you where it's just like, it's so ingrained in who you are. Like healing is just in your being. and I hesitate. I'm like, do I interview a healer? Because we're all so young, and in 10 years, she might be an engineer. And then what did we do here? But I feel that whatever you end up doing, this is something you're going to take with you. So I really can't wait to delve into your brain, ask all the questions. And without further ado, I want to know, where did this all begin and how do you introduce yourself? Are you a healer? Like, you introduce you. Who are you?
Well, it's easy because my name is Hila, so I sometimes just like to say Hila the Healer. But I'm a shamanic energy practitioner. I do shamanic work. So yeah, you can call it healer. I don't have an issue saying that. I think some people who do might have some more work to do around that because you should own up to who you are.
I love it. For people who have no fucking idea what healing or holistic healing is, or I would say most people are not yet in this world. Like, they go to psychiatrists, they go to psychologists, or they don't really do so much. What is shamanic healing? Like, how would you describe that? What exactly does that mean?
So the word shaman really comes from Russia, from like the ancient shamans in Russia and in the ice, and it just means healer. So shamanic healing just means healing, but when you use that word, it has a connotation of being old, traditional healing. So before we had our hospitals and our healthcare systems, people would have healers in their villages. There are many ways, even in China, for example, they would have the barefoot doctors, for example, which were the healers that would go from one village to the next, just doing everything. They wouldn't have like now where I am a doctor for that specific thing. It's just like, I'm here to help you. I know a lot. If I don't, I'll take you to someone who does, and let's just help each other. So that's what shamanic healing is all about. It's just traditional healing that looks as the person as a holistic person, and not just the person, but because it's like for the village, so it's looking at the entire community as a fabric, or the relationship. So there will be no difference between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and then a family doctor. It's all together. The shamanic tradition tells you that it's all one, that it's all connected. If you talk about like from Native American traditions, when you hear in shamanic circles, I guess a lot of aho
Yeah.
metakoyasin, all it means is that we are all related. I hear you. We are all related. So when you say aho to someone or aho metakoyasin, all it means is that, well, your story affects me as well because it's one fabric. So in shamanic healing, it's the understanding that physical illness or mental illness or any kind of psychological trauma is all linked. It's all one. And if you have a family where, for example, I work with children as well, but I work with the parents because there's no point in working just with the child. The child is a mirror to the parents, for example, or to the community. So you understand the relationship. Even you come to heal someone from a shamanic perspective, you first want to see all the relations and how does that affect. I mean, Lee, you came to me, I think the first things we did with you were like cutting cords, for example. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very known shamanic tool to do, cut cords. I literally use a knife, to cut an energetic cord. I use
Wow.
fire, Palo Santo, different tools. That's because that's traditional. It's coming. My specific teaching came more from like Chile, Peru, more South America traditions. But the whole point is that you have a connection with someone that's toxic to you. How do we cut it? And then how does that affect your physical body? And then what kind of remedy can we give psychologically to deal with that connection? And then also physically, if it actually created stress in your life or something like that, then of course also herb remedies, things like that can help. So it's just all in one and all encompassing. That's shamanic healing.
So I want to go back for a second. I had no idea that shamanism, shaman, did you say that was a Russian word?
Yeah, it's from Siberia.
I did not know that. Like, I always thought it was like, I don't know, like a Native American or like indigenous word. So I love that I just learned that is from fucking Siberia. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's just the word for a healer in Siberia. And like if you look at the Eskimos, for example, and then our Native Americans, and if you look at natives from Siberia, let's say that like from the shamanic traditions there in Mongolia, there's some kind of resemblance in the features even. So when you said like I thought this was more Native American, it's because there is the understanding that back then when our earth was even more tied together, that actually, they believed that the Siberian shamans, Siberian communities moved across, all the way, which should make sense if you even look at our planet now, yeah? So they moved all the way and moved onto America, North America and South America. So that's how I think the word shaman ended up more associated with more like Northern or Southern American tribes, natives, but actually it came from Siberia, and that's what I think is the link. So in a way, it is all one, right? It's all connected anyways. But if you go, like, the tradition I studied most with is in Peru, and from the high Andes, from the Quero tribe. The Queros, the way they call a shaman or a healer is a Paco. So a Paco is a healer in Quechua, for example. And then you will have different Pacos for different things. Pampa Mesayok would be the Paco, the healer that works with the plants.
Oh my
The Alto
God.
Mesayok on working more with the elements themselves and also from higher up. So they have they literally can, like, they believe Alto Mestiques can work with the wind, with the lightning, they go even more into the elements. And then you have it's called the Kurakakuyak, which is the elder. You can only get there when you're 70 years old, and they know how to go into the mountains and go in, like, cross dimensions, for example. So, like, they would have different levels of pacos and they'll have different words for that, but still I didn't say shaman once, right? And that's in Peru, where a lot of people nowadays go to Peru to have a shamanic experience, right? Especially with, like, plant medicine, like ayahuasca. They would not use the word shaman. You can have Paco or curandero, which in Spanish means healer.
So you know so much about this. I mean, I love that I'm getting a history and geography lesson. I didn't know, and I'm super happy about it. But I want to know, like, who are you? Was it like access into like a past life that happened, or did you have an experience that brought you into this world? Like,
So I've had many lives. And what happened a couple of years ago, I guess 5 years ago already, I was a nonprofit grants manager in New York City. That was my passion. That's what I did. I was just finished a master's degree at Baruch College for that, an MPA, and started my dream job. I was working for UJ Federation of New York for many years,
no
managing
way.
really awesome projects, and I really loved it. So, already I realized that I like helping others. And I was convinced that the best way to do it systematically, like in a grand scale, would be to really get into the nonprofit world, especially New York. So, I still was a girl with a dream, to, like, bring peace to the world or whatever. Then I don't want to go too much into it, but I would just say that, like, the nonprofit world is not so there's dark corners to everyone, and I was climbing up the ranks there, so I managed to get to a really high up place in the food chain of nonprofits, and when you get there, you get to see a lot. I worked a lot with numbers, handled, like, really big, like, millions of dollars of grants, state grants, international grants. So I got to see a lot. And when you see a lot, you start realizing those darker corners. For example, money that gets in but doesn't get out. Like, I was seeing all these things, and I was basically, I became a whistleblower. I don't want to mention now because of that, like, where it's not in UJ. I left and got a really great job. And I don't want to say anything about the organization because they do great work. It's people in it. But I ended up being a whistleblower and got fired immediately, to a point where I couldn't even go back to the office to collect my things. They were so scared that I somehow, like, give their information away. Although, there's no point. I just wanted to make sure that I was working with homeless and, like, mentally ill, like, severely mentally ill people. So I was just worried that their housing will be taken away and things like that. So I was just trying to take care of them, which is why, of course, I wouldn't, like, make more damage. I was just trying to repair it while I was at the organization, not to bring anyone down. Anyways, so I got blacklisted, actually, and couldn't get a job anymore. And that shakes things in your life, when you dedicate. I think it was already about 8 years of my career, and it shattered me. So I got into a really dark place, something that I hear now with my clients, or, like, in social media, and we talk about it a lot, where it's like the dark night of the soul, it's called sometimes, where, like, you're just, like, at that pit, like, you're at the bottom. I was not just fired from a job that I loved and tried to save people. I was blacklisted, couldn't get back to any other job like that, or didn't want to, because honestly, I felt betrayed by the whole system. And then I also got divorced. I
Was that
moved
around the
home.
same time?
all together. This is all together happening all at once.
Of course, because when it
Well,
rains, it pours.
yeah, no, I was already like on a process of a divorce, but actually the same week that I with the whistleblowing and got fired, I also finally like signed my divorce papers, which was a 6 month process. So it was like all together. Suddenly I don't have a job, a home. I just left a home and I was dating this Druze guy from Lebanon, and I
Mm.
ended up at his apartment instead, and so basically didn't have a home either. It was all very new to me because up until that point I was very, first I was married, I did the things, I went to school, I finished a graduated master's degree, I had a good job, a good reputation at what I'm doing, all that stuff, pretty straightforward. And then it's just all done, it's all out
I don't want
at
to
the
go
same
back to
time.
that moment so much because I feel that like kind of like leave the past in the past. But I guess that kind of was one of the bridges into where you are now. But that's such a human experience. And I feel like we can't escape that our ego comes up to like protect us. And the question is like, was your ego shattered? What was that like raw? Was it anger? I just want to know how that felt. Like, do you know what I mean?
I was mainly just really hurt. I remember my dad every day would call me and say like, "Well, why don't you apply for a different job? You're so good." Whatever, that went away. And other than being blacklisted, which I realized because no one was returning, I just didn't want to. I was just like, I'm done with this, and this was my career. I've put a lot of effort into that. Before that, I was managing bands and working with music management and copyright. So like I already had like another life, and then I decided to move into nonprofit and like made it my thing, fully. So I was pissed and confused. I just didn't know what to do next.
Yeah.
I couldn't go backwards and I didn't know what forwards was. So this is the beginning of my spiritual awakening only because I ended up praying for the first time and I didn't even mean it. I was just so lost. And I remember for a period of about a month and a half, I would just be alone in the house. It was winter time also, like winter in New York, no one leaves. I was just
Mhm.
like in the house praying Gaia. I got Gaia, if you know that. That's it really helped me. So I support that. And just watching a lot of videos about like stuff about awakenings, about kundalini work, yoga, meditation. I was just trying to get my spirits up. And as I was doing that, I was starting to get an intention going within myself, and I started asking like, tell me, please tell me, what am I supposed to do? I started realizing, okay, everything happens for a reason. What is this reason? I was just begging for it. I begged for a reason. And then I didn't get it, I thought. And then I ended up going to Brazil. I'm from Brazil. My parents are from Brazil. And my grandma needed a rescue. There's a whole operation I
Whoa.
did with my father to like move my grandma from one place to the next. So it was as a father-daughter mission to rescue grandma in Brazil. And we went. This is all happening at the same time, right? And I'm still praying and I have all these meditations that I'm doing in between. So I'm helping grandma, and then like once I'm done with her during the day, like I just sit wherever I am, like before I go to sleep and meditate. Like I've never done that before. I just what to do? I was gonna do something.
Wow. So wait, when you say
Um,
Gaia, where are we talking about that? Like I see an ad like Gaia, like the app. Is that what you're talking about? The Gaia? I want to talk about that for a second.
Also an app. It's a channel really. It's a channel for it's really cool. It has a lot of yoga stuff, meditation, and just
So,
like
so here's the question that I'm beckoned to ask, because even though you found Gaia and you started watching these things and you really, what, like something brought you there, like your soul or you or whatever, like gravitated towards this. So the question that I have is, it sounds to me like the world of meditation wasn't so new and maybe you had dabbled with it. So sometimes we forget how we are when we're kids, like we have these whole careers after, and I forget that I was interested in astrology, for example, when I was like 4, because then a whole thing goes by and then you come back to it. So that seems to me like maybe that wasn't the first dabble with like the spirituality. Like what brought you to Gaia? Were there moments when you were younger that you kind of knew there was something greater? Like I want to go even further back. Like when you were little, when did you know that you had something bigger?
it wasn't about spirituality for me. It was just about healing and about therapy. So for me, since I was young, and it took me a while to let go of that dream because of society, but the dream was to be a therapist, not super crazy like psychologist, psychiatrist. That's what I wanted, but
When you
for
were
different
little?
reasons. yeah, since I was little, and then growing up in high school, I did psychology. I continued in college, but the teachers sucked, or I didn't wanted to do music therapy. It was always around therapy for me,
Got
but
it.
my parents were afraid that they're, middle class to low with not a lot of means, and they were just worried that it would take too long and they can't support me and they can't. So they were just pushing me on whatever else is better than like the psychology route. So I was pushed out of it. And I think with Gaia, what I liked is there were many movies back then about healing and different terms of therapy. And for me, one thing that I did do for the first time right around that time when I was getting divorced is to get into talk therapy. And that really helped me understand where I want to be, where I don't want to be, things like that. So I was getting back into it. And I think I'm very intuitive, and now I know that. But back then I didn't know, but I was just my nature is to just go after, like I'll have this crazy idea or like this hunch, right, and I'll go after it. So with Gaia it's the same. I saw it and it's like, wow, I think there's content there that could be helpful. That's when I was still working, and then because I wasn't working and I got the subscription, I was just watching whatever, but I was leaning towards the healing part. So it helped me, even like with the yoga, like all that work towards therapy, the meditation. It's not about meditation for me. I'm not the world greatest meditator. I mean, I do it. I lead meditations, but really it's about healing. It's about therapy and working with others. It's something that since I was little, I would be the psychologist of like the school. Like I would have my little corner.
Wow, I could see it.
Girls and boys would like come to me to talk. I wouldn't have that many friends, but everybody would know me, and like I would know everybody's stuff since I was like, I don't know, 8. I would do that stuff. So it's like something that was just in my nature all along, but I thought I couldn't do it. Like I thought it's not for me. Like, okay, it's nice on the side, or like I guess I'm good listener or whatever, but like it's not for me. And then it shifted. Through Gaia, I found my teacher, Alberto Violdo. He was speaking in one of I think in the movie called Heal or Healing, yeah. And I found out about energy medicine for the first time, and that really spoke to me. I worked with some medicine at that time, specifically MDMA, and that really helped me. And I started seeing literally the energy in my hands and the color of that. And I started seeing things that I remembered, if you wanted to go backwards for a second, that the little me also saw.
That's what I was curious about. So you're Brazilian, you have family in New York, you are Israeli. Tell me the time, like where are you from? Like what's going, where are you now? No. Just kind of like, so we can settle. So where were you born?
I was born in Israel to Brazilian parents. So
Okay.
They're Brazilian. Brought up in a Brazilian kibbutz in the south, and
Wow.
And actually from that kibbutz, that's where I have most vivid memories of like this other side, this other world, because there were a lot of trauma in that kibbutz, and I could feel it as an empath, and I could see there were like literally ghosts, things like that. There were many strange things in that kibbutz. If you think about it, a kibbutz made of orphans from World War II, you'll have a lot of trauma there. You'll have a lot of stuff going on beneath the surface. Yeah, so we were there. We moved around a lot when I was a little kid, and eventually, when I was 17, they let us know that we're all moving to New York. So at 17, I moved to New York, and it was there almost 15 years.
Did you want to stay in Israel when everybody left?
Yeah. I never wanted to leave Israel. I was ready to go to the army at that point, but I'm so thankful. I love my parents. I think they've done an amazing job, because I didn't want to come to the United States. And so I wouldn't have. And I'm so grateful at this point. I've learned so much, and it's things that coming back now, I chose to come back by myself. My parents are still in New York.
It sounds to me though, because 17 is like an age where you can say no, like you can say no. I mean, like, you know what I mean? It's like, so the question is like, was that kind of a choice, or was it like being with my family is the choice?
Yeah, it depends on your family. I have a very tight family, especially because my parents moved from Brazil to Israel. Just they got married and moved, so we don't really have family here in Israel. I mean, now I have an aunt here, but there was no family, so we're a very strong nuclear family.
Oh, I love that. It sounds like you had a strong support system overall. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, I think overall my childhood has been amazing, but my mother is very Polish, so there was no option. It was like, sure, you can stay, and then I will stay as well, and you're gonna separate the family, so you can do that if you, it's that kind of
Wow.
option.
Wow. Okay, I got it. I was like, but I don't get it. 17, you have a choice. Nope, you don't have a choice. For those of you who like are not understanding the stereotypes, like a Polish mom or a kibbutz. Kibbutz is a communal living. It's a very cool setup here in Israel. The stigma of a Polish parent is kind of like it's fucking my way or the highway. Is that how it is kind of with a Polish parent?
Well, and it's guilting you. So she's like, yeah, you can stay, but it means I will have to stay here because there's no way my daughter is going to the army and I'm
Oh my God.
somewhere else. I'm going to stay and dad's going to go and, we're going to split up and it's all because of you. So,
Wow. Okay. So I would leave too. I get it. All right. So you got there and you got here. It's
yeah.
just, it's so crazy for me that there's this whole life before things that you did see. So talk to me about energy medicine. Like, what does that mean? Is MDMA a medicine in your book? Like, is it about the actual drug or the medicine, or is it about the intention always? Or is it like, even if my intention is not that great and I take MDMA, I will be healed? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I just mentioned MDMA because it's something that I got to know at that period, right, where I was let go of the job and didn't know who am I anymore.
Got it.
So it just really helped me in the time of crisis. But it was just partying with friends. The intention was not to heal. It just started happening. It sparked something in me, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things that happened during that time that I was able to listen. So I was getting really firm instructions from myself, from my higher self, and MDMA was just a messenger. I think it was able to open me enough because it's a heart medicine and it's a heart opener. And it was able to open me enough, but I don't actually work with it a lot. I think there's a lot of different options that exist. It's just in that point, that's what I had, and it did help. It helped me see that I'm more than my body. It helped me understand that everything does have a reason, and I just like started understanding the channeling aspect of myself that I'm still learning, but like how much information runs through me always, and started to listen to it because now I could, sometimes like, oh, that'd be nice, I should try this, all these ideas that pop up into your head and you could just ignore them. So I realized I ignored my inner myself, my inner voice for way too long. And I'm so thankful because in a way I didn't have any grounding to stay on, any back doors, nothing to like, no comfort zone, so I was like, well, now is the time to try all these things out. So when I heard, basically, I talked about Brazil because in Brazil specifically, I had an amazing awakening, a spontaneous Kundalini awakening that happened in my grandma's roof. It was just incredible. And there I heard it, when I told you I was praying and I was doing meditation and all that, and nothing. I couldn't understand what I need to do. And then in Brazil, something shifted and I was just meditating again. And all of a sudden I heard a very clear voice. And it wasn't mine. I couldn't say, oh, it was just a thought that popped in. It was a voice. It was not mine. And it said very clearly, Hila, Hila, like this. And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, that's my name, Hila. And I could hear it saying again, no, healer. Like this. I was like, what?
Tell me more. I feel like I'm there with you.
Well, right after I heard those words and I asked what kind of healer, I got this intense shock to my spine, not in a bad way though, in like the best way possible. I felt like my whole body's on fire, but in the best way possible. I can't explain it. All like tingly and fun. And I started just hysterically laughing. And this is like 3 a.m., I think, something like that. It was like super late at night. And I'm like hysterically laughing. I'm like having the time of my life. I don't want to call it an orgasm because it's not even that. But, I was just like, ah, like just like I found paradise. And nothing really happened. I heard that voice and then just that feeling started like just
and you weren't on any substance. This was like you on your rooftop, no MDMA, no ayahuasca, just Hila being open to listening to what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just there's the time and space, set and setting. I think it's all together. But it was just incredible. And I know that from then on, like I thought to talk to a friend about it. I was like, hey, I had this feeling, and I kind of explained to her what I was going through. And she's like, oh my God, you just had a Kundalini awakening. I had it a couple months ago. I didn't know who to tell, but now I can tell you. And she started telling me about it and I started researching about it. It's like, wow, that's what it is. So that's like the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Okay, what does that mean? So like all that stuff started developing. And then I remember the next morning I woke up and I go outside, and my grandma has all these like roses, different like bushes and flowers around in her house. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, was that this red? Like I just see everything more clearly. It's as if someone came and like cleaned my eyes, like kind of took away, like I didn't even know, but apparently they were dusty, like there was like, it felt like the dust was gone. It was all crisp and like super clear, and like I could hear better and I could feel things, and I understood that I could feel what my grandmother's feeling, what she's about to say. I can hear it. Like I was so clear. I was so like such a clear vessel that I could just interact with the world on a completely different level.
So
And it
what
was
is a
just
Kundalini awakening? If you could like define it, first of all, what is it? And second of all, do you think it happens to people who are, can it happen to someone unbeknownst to them who are not on the healing path?
yeah. Actually, like at my clinic, every case that I went through in my own life, I'll end up seeing in my clinic. That's just how it is. So I do see a lot of people around that subject. I guess it does vary. But yeah, basically any person can have a Kundalini awakening spontaneously. Some people evoke it, especially if they do Kundalini work. Kundalini is a type of yoga.
Okay. Yeah. What is it?
It's a type of yoga that works on breath and your spine and connection to spirit. It's very spiritual. I think it's the most like energy work related type of work within yoga is Kundalini yoga. So it works on your energy system, especially in your spine, which is what is connected to this Kundalini awakening. The idea is that you get a spark at the root of your spine. So that means like in your tailbone. And it's something that's innate in us. It's as if like, we had this as factory setting, that little button at the bottom of someone that does like a full reset on someone, that sort of thing. We all have that. And that little button is what causes this Kundalini awakening, basically. So it can happen from stress. It can happen if it's tried to be induced, if someone's working on getting that. And or what happened to me, which I think I was just raising my vibration. I didn't know that, but I was doing Kundalini exercises. I just liked it. And I was doing a lot of meditations. And I remember at some point I was doing like guided meditations up to like hypnotherapy style. So like going into the subconscious, clearing limiting beliefs, a bunch of things that, nowadays I know I was raising my vibration, like letting go of any heavy energy, heavy thoughts, anything, that we consider heavy, right? I think we use that in our language to understand energy in general. So I was doing that already, or things happen for me, right? Like things get stripped from me that don't serve anymore, like friendships and marriages and jobs or whatever. So I was letting it go. So in a way I was climbing higher. And when you get to that point, it's as if like it's a trigger for the awakening to start, because the awakening allows for you to be in a higher consciousness and a higher level of awareness of yourself, of the world. You start seeing everything much more clearly after that. And that's the idea. It's as if we're all meant to do that. So when they're talking about awakening, is because the Kundalini awakening allows you to stop being asleep, not like sleepwalk through life, feel like life is just happening to you and you have to just respond, that like everything your parents told you or society or whatever is how the world is. You start understanding that you are a creator and that you have this energy all over, and it's like the center of it is in your spine. And so when I was saying like I was feeling all this like excitement, is because all this energy was going up my spine. And like, when someone touches your back, for example, and you get all jittery, like think about that, like a surge of energy from your tailbone all the way up. It's supposed to go all the way up here. And that's what I was feeling. It went, well, and I think I flew somewhere to a point. So that happens. Thankfully, that was a good thing for me. But I see people that it doesn't go all the way. For example, it could get stuck. It could get stuck because one of the chakra systems, one of the areas are still blocked. So it will start and then get stuck. And then I have people that have like stuff that looks like tics, like they will like be jumpy like this. That's a Kundalini awakening that hasn't gone all the way yet. So they're not fully aware yet. They're just partly there. Like they're not still understanding that basically we are all one. We're all, it's all connected. Yeah. And that any person that's awakened through that process is able to see their spot in this reality, their spot in humanity, in the world, and how they can actually start being that co-creator. And like they see how by feeling all the energy more clearly, you can also work to change it. You understand, oh, this is happening with like high frequency, low frequency, and you can start playing with that. You start, I think, immediately go into esoteric subjects that try to explain what you've gone through, and that brings you into a higher level as well.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because, healing or holistic health or alternative medicine or whatever it is, it's so vastly different. Like I know really very little about the stuff you're talking about. And I don't like the word, the wellness space. I don't like the connotation of this, the wellness space, but I guess it is the wellness, like the wellness world. There's so many facets. There's so many different languages. The language that is most associated with me, for example, is like astrology and tarot, which is a whole other thing, but it is connected. And this is why I wanted to interview you. You speak such a language that I understand. I didn't know these things about you. I didn't know you came from, and I'm using the word mundane loosely. Like your past wasn't mundane. Like working for a nonprofit is very amazing. I know lovely people. I'm right now dabbling in a little bit. I don't think it's for me. I'm not belittling that, but it's so crazy that I didn't even know these things about you. And I gravitated towards you because there's a language that we don't even have to speak that I just understand. It's some cross between the modern and like the holistic. And the question I have, what do you think about regulation? Right? Because there's psychiatrists and psychologists, and they have these lists of regulations. And I have to tell you, not my language. I also went to study some psychology, and I was like, this teacher, I don't even know what she's talking about. I feel like she needs to come to me. And it was hard for me. But then there is that element of safety of like, there's a language. People are seeking help. People are going to holistic healers when they need help. And a lot of fucking people are not equipped to help. Like, I know a healer who helps people with sexual trauma. The woman thinks sexuality is like disgusting. Can there be regulation, and how? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, it's a great question. I've been actually thinking about regulation in our shamanic associations and then community because of that. Because I also see clients after seeing bad healers, let's say, and I'm okay to saying bad healers because the best that you can do is do no harm, right? If you haven't done any harm, that's great. But I think sometimes people have a feeling that they have to do something, especially if someone's coming to them and paying, that they do end up harming. Like they say things they shouldn't have. So the first thing I would say is like, if you don't have something good to say, or if you're putting your own opinion onto someone, or if you do think that you have to do all this work, like I know when I'm working with someone, just this, even now what we're creating, right, that can offer healing for someone that hears this and it's the right word, the right time. So just creating that sacred space of support and answer things as truthfully and as unique to the person as possible without trying to like put your own mindset onto them. And I think that's especially like I would say even not just healers, but we have all these coachers now and things, and I think there's a feeling that they have to do something, where we're not. Like, we're here mostly to hold space, and hold space means to be here for someone, let them say what they need to say. And if we have something beneficial for them, we can see if we can help. But it's better to do less than more, and I think because of that, and because there is this mentality that you have to do something where you don't really, like, even if you're just talking to someone, just listening to them, just giving them right kind of attention, heart to heart, sitting in front of someone, looking at them in the eyes and like understanding them, giving them empathy is enough. That's already healing. Okay, so I think that because there's a misconception even about that, people do tend up to give homework or assignments or like advice and different things that are not really supporting, but in a way it's just supporting them because now they've proven that like their worth.
Yeah. So can there be regulation? Are you pro regulation? Do you think like the client
I
is the one who
am.
needs to be educated? I mean, what do you
Well, I've
think?
actually been talking to some friends. I have a community of healers around the world that we're all in contact to actually create a forum, and it's something that I've been planning to do this year already. A forum to start talking about regulation, at least in shamanic healing. Like we can at least help within the world that we're invested in, right? Talk about practices, best practices, but to a point where you get an association, and so you can apply for that, and there are rules and regulations, and I think the main thing is do no harm, maybe a cross check, or there'll be different things that I definitely think we need to do to bring these healing modalities more to the forefront. First of all, just to be taken more seriously.
Hmm.
It's something that we in any way, but I think it would really help for people, because then, not everybody needs to be a part of this association, but whoever is a part of it, has more of a check for regulation, and maybe there's something about reporting, malpractice, which right now we don't have in the
Right.
shamanic world. So I'm lucky enough that because of my training, and my training with the Four Winds Society has made me just know a lot of people around the world that are doing this. And I didn't just study with them, I worked for them for up until, I guess, a couple of months ago. So I have a wide network of healers around the world. So I think at least for me, I feel like I'm in the right position to start offering that.
It's so crazy because I'm like so anti-censorship. I don't like censor. I curse like every minute. I was so upset when they, took Trump's voice off of Twitter. Like you could hate him. He could be like the worst thing in the world. But I'm so anti-censorship. But on the flip side, there needs to be some sort of regulation. So I'm torn, and it's so interesting that you say that, because what you're saying essentially is there could still be healers doing their practices, like, and they don't have to be a part of this association. But maybe it's cool to, in addition to that, also have an association where, like, you can say, you know what, maybe I feel comfortable going through this association. So
Right.
I'm conflicted, but I like that. I like that you're taking that initiative, because I do think it's important. Like there are people who can just not be helping. On the other hand, it's like, if I come to someone, maybe I needed that experience. Like, don't you feel like we also pick? I don't know. It's weird. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think about that?
You think that everything is accurate, but that's the point of co-creation. So if you want to, to philosophize about what is co-creation, so in a way, you take responsibility for what you can take responsibility, which is your own self, right? And how
Yeah.
you react to the world, how you work with others, how do you synthesize and understand information within yourself, and so on.
I mean, I could speak to you for 19-hour million days all day, but also, yes, don't worry. We're going to let go of you soon, but I do have a couple more important questions. I want to ask you, do you ever turn down clients? Do you ever feel like I can't help you? Like, does that ever happen where it's like, you're not supposed to come to me? Curious.
I finally started doing that. It's hard, and it's something that I think, especially an empath, like a highly sensitive person, that I'm used to helping people. And in a way, within my own work, my personal work for my own healing, I work on my self-worth and how does it have to do with saying yes, and just always being there for someone. So it's something that I had to come to terms with. But yes, I do now select my clients, and I have a different method for that. For one, what I realized is I don't need to turn clients away. All I need to do is set an intention to what kind of clients am I open to.
So do you have like a theme? Like, do you ever notice patterns of like, what the hell? Like I've had 20 clients and like they all are dealing, I don't know, with fertility, or like, do you have themes that you've noticed?
Yeah, yeah. I have themes. I have themes that come in waves, and I see a lot that people I have it the same day have similar things as well, or depending on the week. So it's really fun to see, and it also reminds me how we're all one, because I'm like, you don't even know each other, but you two connect. Or like you actually helped me figure this situation out with this other person, because So yeah, I have those themes. I ask for healers. My intention now. Before I was just working with everyone. Really, I worked from babies, unborn babies, all the way up to like 80-year-old people. Not that I'm saying that even in that range you can't have all healers. I guess you could, but I was just working with anyone, and I think that's also important, especially as you start off, to just like experiment, because you want to know who your target audience is. You want to know who you can help the most, and this is how I learned, just by working with everyone and seeing how I can help. And then they'll self-select themselves. The ones that really feel like a connection will be coming back. The ones that don't. But I did understand that because I was just open and said like I'll help anyone. That's what ended up showing up at my doorstep. And then I was able to say, okay, no, I want to help healers. I want to help people that can then help other people. I'm at that level where I want to teach what I'm doing. And so I'm calling in my students. Like I have a workshop coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm calling in those students. Those students are also my clients. And I want to create this ecosystem. So I see that by making the intention, the people that come in are already fitting with that intention. Or I made an intention, I want to work more with children. It just happened.
I like that. And because it's not easy to turn people away. And I just feel like I would turn a lot of people away because there's stuff I just can't, I don't want to be responsible for, but it feels like you have the center to be able to take responsibility for many things. I mean, does that ever scare you? Has anyone ever gone to that point where like suicide has come up, and have you ever been like, I can't take this upon myself? Or do you go head first into those situations?
I don't. I mean, when I see a situation where you said suicide, I see people turn to me when I'm feeling that inkling, but it's not a cry for help. It's, well, in a way, it is basically, again, not really wanting to do healing, but just using that as like,
Right.
I wouldn't even get into that. And I wouldn't help them. I only help people that want to help themselves, and I have that attitude when they come to me. I've had a lot of intense stuff in my clinic, and I'll continue having those. Nothing that I'd say I couldn't handle, because it's the intention. I know I'm working hand in hand with spirit. That's just what I could say. That's the most spiritual thing I guess I could say here, is that I said yes. Basically, after that, the healer, what we said in Brazil and everything, and I ended up going and studying, shamanic energy medicine, and kept studying other things. I keep studying. I'm a student always, and developing that. So I feel like I've said yes completely to this calling. It's a calling, and so Spirit's got my back.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like a channel to help Spirit. And so it's not me helping you. Even when you come to me and you're like, I'm the channel.
Do you ever have clients who come in and like they think something of themselves and you're like, what? No.
I guess, yes. I think especially in the beginning, because another thing that I call in, yes, healers, but like those who are like on their awakening or about to, like I really love making those big changes for people, So of course you have to see them before that change, and you're able to see who they are past it. But another thing I learned in my studies is, as a shaman, as a healer, you're supposed to just hold the person's highest destiny for them until they're able to reach it. And then that way I don't need to hold it anymore, and they continue. And so basically every time I see someone, I see their highest destiny. I know also from experience that I shouldn't be disappointed if they don't reach there. They have many options, and as long as they're happy. But I do see what they could be and where they are.
I absolutely love you, and I'm so happy that I got to know you. I have quick questions. What's your favorite food right now?
Right now, soup. Lots of soup.
What kind of soup?
I made this orange soup. It's pretty awesome. It's got all the orange stuff in it, plus cauliflower. It's really good.
Sounds amazing.
Sounds really good.
No, that's great. Next destination. Like, do you feel like traveling, or are you kind of staying put right now? Like, where do you want to go next when we can get the fuck out of here? Corona, guys.
I really need to go back to Brazil, so that's definitely my next adventure. I need to go see my family, and I want to go to the Amazon, sit with the natives there for a while. So hopefully soon.
I literally didn't even know that I wanted to do that, and then you said it, and I'm like, I want to sit with the natives. I get it. What's the most like human, disgusting, like not healer, like TV show that you love watching? Like, what's the most like, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, I'm not going to get clients anymore, that you're watching or that you've watched on Netflix that you just love, like your guilty pleasure?
Well, to be honest, I'm gonna be that one that, like, spiritual awakening and stop watching TV. That's kind of what happened. If you saw my old place in Yafo, didn't even have a TV.
Oh yeah, you didn't have a TV.
I didn't watch much. The only thing I did would be Gaia. But honestly, now I'm in a wonderful, loving relationship with a man that does like Netflix. So
balance, yes.
Yeah, so we're watching, but I'm just the one I'm watching is called Shadowhunters, and it's all about.
I thought you were gonna say Bling Empire. Do you know what that is? I was hoping you would say Bling Empire. I'm happy you did it because I would respect you less a little.
It's called Shadowhunters, and it's like not at all removed from my world. It's got like vampires and werewolves and like demon hunters, and what I do on a daily basis. Basically.
Listen, I'm disappointed in your answer, but I'll take it. I'm very upset. I was like, you don't love the card. Like, just give me something. Okay. I mean, I want to, what do you offer? What can first of all, can people see you on Zoom? Tell us a little bit about what you offer. Cause I'll tell you how it is for me. And maybe there is a menu and I just like didn't know to ask, but I like didn't even know all the fun things. And now I have to go back to, cause guys, I have a wounded feminine. Okay. If you want to know more about it, it's not today, but I have to come back for body work. Cause that was just like mind blowing. But what do you offer? Where can people find you? All the fun marketing, shameless stuff. Go now. Now's your time.
So I do see clients one-on-one. So for that, I give either Zoom sessions. I have people from all over the world through Zoom. So that's one way to get to me. Or I live in Pardes Khana now, and I have a clinic that you visited. So in the clinic, I see people one-on-one for regular shamanic healing work, but also, as you mentioned, that's where I would also offer shamanic body work, which is something I've coined after working for in different retreats and different healing modalities. I realize how beautiful you can combine body work and energy work and shamanic journeying to make a really beautiful holistic treatment where you're able to really hear your body. So we work on body symptoms like pain and then go deeper into the emotional trauma that might be buried there. And then we go into limiting beliefs in the mind. And then I go into energetic work. Hopefully that was understood. It's really hard to explain, but it's basically I do massage, and instead of just doing massage, when I find a place that's hurting, we would start talking about what it means. And I've developed a shamanic map system on someone's back, on your back, that works on past, present, future, masculine, feminine, and then we're able to locate what the trigger, what this pain is coming to tell us. And then we release it shamanically, energetically, and then the pain itself is gone physically. So it's a really beautiful work. And I got kind of famous in Tel Aviv for it because a lot of people come to me now asking me for a massage because some girl would say, "Oh my God, my pain is finally gone," which is true. But it's not that I'm an amazing masseuse. It's just because the pain, especially if it's sensitive people, and that's what I'm calling in, we have a lot of psychosomatic issues and stress, and so the pain is really just showing something more emotional or mental. And so when we're breaking those down, the pain goes away as well. You know, it sounds like magic, but it's for me it's simple. So I do that, and now on March 16th, I'm going to start a workshop, a master class. It's going to be live. It's going to be in person here in next to Pardes Khana in Eniron. It's a very unique master class. I'm really excited. It only has space for 12 people, and we're looking for those who know they have a superpower, if it's intuition, empathy, I don't know, shooting laser beams, but that know they have something extra. Just like when I told you, like my extra was like, I'm a therapist naturally or whatever, and like I was told I could not do that. So anyone like that that's ready to step up. And then we use sacred alchemy. I use the teachings, the shamanic teachings of the elements and the medicine wheel to actually create that new reality for yourself. But as a group, we're also looking at how we can make something to help humanity. You know, how can we as conscious beings, and we learn different meditation techniques, transcendental meditation techniques, yin yoga for the different elements and the movements. So we're actually becoming alchemists, and that's the idea. So I want to bring in a group together, very special people that are ready to step up and take responsibility for their own uniqueness and their spark, and at the same time also then bring it out to the world and work together because we're stronger together. There's power. There's no reason to do anything alone. We are social beings. And so bring back the circle, the wisdom of the circle, and working together. That's the best kind of healing to us and to the world. So that's the next step, my master class. I'm excited about that. We'll shoot it, so eventually it'll be also available online. But for now, if you're around in Israel and want to come, you can contact me for more details. It's a 6-week program.
The thing for me that sets you apart, that like has set, like from all the treatments that we did, and like we did it. I mean, it was the first time I did body work. I was like, where has this been? Like my body hurts. What the heck? For me, that was just like, that was mind blowing. Like, and you're so good at so many things, but for me, that's something very tangible, very physical that sets you apart from any other healer I've been to, was this shamanic body work, which for me, it's mind blowing. And there's like unfinished business. I'm going to come. I can't wait. I love doing this. I'm so happy that you came on, and thank you for giving me your time. And I know you're not feeling well, and I believe that everybody has beautiful healing powers within. And I know you do too. And you see the beauty in people. So thank you for taking time. Thank you for being here with me. I really adore you and I appreciate you. And you really are doing God's work. And I know that everybody listening just got a fuck ton of added value into their life. So I really appreciate it. And thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much. I love being here, holding this space. Thanks for creating this container. Can't wait to see what else comes up.